Hello,
So
we're back for more Marvel.
there's a lot this week.
Yeah, not nearly as much news as we had to catch up on last week, but we do have
Like
a new
actual content.
a new show to talk about, which is fun. But let's start off like we always do with our comics, and relating to the show we'll be talking about, we'll start off with Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, #1. So,
What
what'd you think?
what a convenient timing.
Right?
I mean, you start.
Sure. Well, I mean, maybe I just got swept up in everything that's going on today, but this is gonna be my pick of the week right off the bat here. I really liked it. It's very lighthearted and fun, and I mean, the character is just always entertaining. They're getting into a lot of like the complicated family tree that I guess I wasn't fully aware of for Kate Bishop. I know there's some crazy stuff going on there, so I'm looking forward to getting to know more of that. But yeah, it's really just a fun story and just kind of crazy and funny.
I think you know that this is also my pick of the week because it's got Lucky on the cover.
Well, I was wondering if you were going to go outside the box and take the new Infinity comic as your pick of the week, but
Oh, I didn't think of that as a pick of the week. Like I didn't think of that as like we'll talk about that, but yeah, I didn't.
yeah,
That would probably be my actual pick of the week. But yes, if you're talking about like comics you get at a comic book store,
right,
um,
right,
yeah, and usually like, I had very low expectations because usually these sort of like synergy tie-ins, are
right.
not great, but it's kind of nice. It didn't have all that sort of like need to tell you another story next week kind of situation. Like it
Right,
just kind of
right.
just told a great story, complicated in a comic way, but also accessible. And I just watched Hawkeye on Disney Plus, and I want to read comics, so yeah.
A fair amount of the story here is told via text messages between Kate and some of the other young Avengers, which I thought it was really like well handled. It doesn't take away from your normal comic book reading, so I liked it a lot. So our next issue will be Black Panther #1, and as far as the covers go, I will say this is my cover pick of the week. But aside from that, not my favorite. What did you think?
So can I? 3 of our comics featured Doctor Strange this week.
Yes.
One of them is called The Death of Doctor Strange and deals with the death of Doctor Strange.
Yep.
I don't know what the other 2 are doing. And obviously it's silly because it's just a continuity blip or whatever. But
Right.
that was part of what makes comics fun, is like that what you read in one book affects the other book. I mean, sometimes you don't want to be slave to it, but Doctor Strange was not integral to any of these, really. I mean, Hulk, you could say maybe a little bit, but they could have replaced him with some other character.
Sure.
I mean, so I just can't get over the amount of Doctor Strange we have for a dead guy. It's kind of like there's a lot of dead guy.
Very true. Yeah. There's even a lot of Doctor Strange in the book titled Death of Doctor Strange. So, and this is issue #3. He died a long time ago. But
Right.
Before we get to that one, Black Panther, to me, it was just it was too wordy, and it was not telling us anything new. Like the whole story, the whole premise is that T'Challa has sleeper agents around the world, and they've been figured out, and one of them was killed. That's not a new thing for Wakanda, and they spent a lot of time just explaining the logistics of that, and I felt like it was a lot of it was unnecessary.
They also spent a lot of time trying to explain away the last run that had him in space, which didn't seem necessary. I mean, I think you kind of know going into Black Panther #1, not like you could passively mention it, but they kind of spent like too many words being like,
Right.
well, this is my justification for not being in space, and be like, I get it. It's a new writer, it's a new story. Like, I don't need too much. It's nice that they acknowledge it, but it doesn't need to get, sort of like a Monty Python foot stomping on the last run, but whatever.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I will say I'm interested to see this whole thing is like T'Challa is really ruffling some feathers here, and it seems like he's going to be sort of pitted against some of our other favorite characters. So that should be interesting to see. But this particular issue, I thought was just it was almost too long for what it was, really. Like, it could have been cut down. But we'll see. I wouldn't write off the series just yet.
I would say too, this is a guy who comes from movies and television, John Ridley, and a lot of people who transition to the comic medium overwrite him.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure in time he'll realize that, there's pictures, so you don't need to say everything.
Right. And there's a decent amount of action here too. And sometimes you just got to let it speak for itself. And I think I agree with you. I think that will come. Our next is the aforementioned Death of Doctor Strange, number 3. We're getting into just some absolute craziness, including one of the most wild character designs I've ever seen in a Marvel comic. We do get a glimpse of that child that we've been hearing about from these 3 mothers. What did you think as a whole? And I'm curious to know your thoughts on what the child looks like.
I'm really curious to learn more about the child.
Yeah.
But I think it was funny that like the whole time they're talking about his hunger, and you're just like, oh, it's a Magic Galactus.
Yes, exactly. I had the exact same thought.
And you could have just saved us a lot of like words just by saying he's like a Magic Galactus, which eventually they get to. But
yeah, they go on to mention Galactus by name in this issue, which was like, all right, so at least you're acknowledging it.
Because like when they kept like using all these like over like dramatizing it. I mean, not that it's not dramatic, but you're just gonna go like, okay, it's Magic Galactus. Like I get it. I thought, I'm liking the story. I don't know if this particular issue stands alone well, but it's obviously a part of a bigger story. But you're kind of ready to figure out what this child's about.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's also a big portion of this where they're kind of, talking about where everyone's going to go and what they're handling. And they're talking about the, vampires going crazy in Chernobyl and all sorts of other attacks around the world. And you hear about like, well, the X-Men are off there. The Avengers are going here. And I'm like, I want to follow them. I want to see what they're doing instead of getting, I
think we did a little bit though, that's not some of the spinoffs we've read. Like we had the vampires and the X-Men.
Yeah, and there's more. There's another Blade coming up. I don't remember. I don't have the full checklist in front of me, but I don't think there's another Avengers tie-in. And I think this is taking place after that Avengers. Like they've already met these mothers. I want to see where they're going to go after that. After they were so easily defeated by those mothers. So yeah, I want to see more of that. I'm also curious as to what Mordo's role is in this, because if it leads to him being, the big culprit here, I think that's sort of a letdown. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, the prime suspect, and then we kind of rule him out, and then it ends up being the prime suspect. So I don't know. I hope there's a twist to come. I'm sure there's something that's going to throw us off here, but I don't know.
If you were betting, how much would you bet that he's the new Sorcerer Supreme at the end of all this?
I mean, he's probably the odds-on favorite, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's tough. Hopefully that's not the case, though. I hope they have some sort of twist for us. I'm still hoping to see Wanda play a big role here, but we'll see. Next, we have The Amazing Spider-Man, and I will say this was in the running for my pick of the week here. I'm liking this series. I think it's been consistent, and when you bring back Kraven the Hunter, it's going to be entertaining.
Yeah, I think this one suffers a little bit from not moving it, but it's okay because it's Kraven. It's like not a lot happens in the sort of Beyond story or Peter Parker story or really any story. It's like Beyond's still kind of creepy. Peter Parker's still in a coma or whatever. And, but it's okay because you're fighting Kraven and that's just fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you're getting the Kraven, hallucinogens introduced, and Ben is already doubting Beyond and sort of, on the fence about whether or not he's doing the right thing here. I love that he asks the question. He says, like, I've been asking the wrong question. Instead of who is Spider-Man, I should be asking what is Spider-Man. And, I think that he's getting really into that superhero psychology that we talk about so much. And then, yeah, you're introducing or reintroducing one of the best Spider-Man villains out there. So I'm really excited to see where this goes now. And again, I've just been enjoying this whole Beyond arc a lot. I am starting to wonder how much longer before Peter wakes up, though.
I'm guessing a couple months because isn't Ben Reilly getting his own title?
Well, but then, I mean, you would assume that Peter is running with this one. And I don't know. I guess we'll see where they go. But hopefully not too much longer. Although I am enjoying Ben Reilly, too. So, and our final issue this week will be Hulk #1. And this is Donny Cates taking the reins on Hulk after fresh off of King in Black. What did you think?
Very Donny Cates.
Yeah, it's very true.
What's interesting is this isn't the first iteration of Hulk to go where like Bruce is crazy.
Right.
I mean, it's been a couple of years since like that's sort of become the normal sort of understanding. Is it's not meek Bruce Banner who becomes the Hulk when he's angry or whatever else triggers it. And I think it's Hulk is one of those characters where you have to kind of constantly reinvent it, whether it's Gray Hulk or Smart Hulk or whatever, it's iteration. Mm-hmm. But it's just funny because it's like the MCU I don't see ever getting here,
right?
Because like you're not going to suddenly make Mark Ruffalo unlikable. I mean, good luck. In that, I'm sure he's played villains, but in this. Sort of character he's playing.
Right.
So, I would say it's a little refreshing to have something that's completely separate from the MCU, because a lot of times these characters kind of become more aligned with their MCU counterparts just because that's, makes sense for new readers. But it'll be interesting to see this run. It'll be interesting. And this isn't just like a Hulk story that'll run 12 issues and that'll be the end of it. This is leading into something crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm all for it. I just hope he doesn't kill anybody.
Well, I mean, Donny Cates' style. And after the success of King in Black, I totally agree. I think you are going to see this reach some sort of big crossover type potential. I love that there's a connection to King in Black here. It's definitely a very interesting concept. I mean, they've already thrown the title of Smashtronaut out there. So Hulk in space. The only thing we have seen that before, so I'm hoping they can like really differentiate this from Planet Hulk, and not, kind of pull from that, that's a beloved Hulk story. So it would be very easy to sort of play the hits here, but hopefully they go in a different direction. And I have no doubt in my mind that Donny Cates has some twists for us coming in this one because he always does. So he hasn't let me down yet. So I'm expecting some craziness with this one for sure.
So what do you think about Lucky?
About the Infinity comic?
Yeah.
Well, let me hang on 1 second. Let me find...
I blew you out of order.
That's all right. I'll pull it up. Hang on. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it for how simple it was. I mean, it was one of those things where I was just like, okay, I'm gonna read this comic real quick. We're gonna get a review up, and I was like, oh, I'm done. I quote unquote read the whole thing because there's really no text. Like there's some exclamations and some woofs thrown in there, but it's really, really fun. And I mean, perfect timing, right? Like everybody's already falling in love with Lucky from the Hawkeye series. So why not give them some more content to enjoy?
I have a question about that. I have a question about the Hawkeye series, but do we want to bring in Bekah?
Yeah, let's bring in our third member of our team here.
Hi,
hey, Bekah. So, we have the first 2 episodes of Marvel's Hawkeye on Disney Plus.
So full disclosure, I want to be a friend. So because of Mike's poorly timed vacation, I was the one who watched the screeners of the first 2 episodes, and then at Destination D23 one night they showed the 2 episodes again as a part of the event. But I am out of it. I did not watch it this morning. I don't know what's trending. It's a lot of work to do before we kind of break for the holiday. So I want to know what you guys think of the show, but I also want to know like what's caught on, like what's in the zeitgeist.
That's a good question because I've had my head down in comics most of the day. But I mean, obviously Lucky, right? Like people are definitely loving Lucky already. Also, I've seen nothing but fans raving about Haley Steinfeld. Scene stealer is the phrase I keep seeing with her, and I 100% agree there.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's just incredible.
Yeah, she's really good. You know, I mean, I don't know a lot about her before. I mean, I know she's not, you know, has a career outside of before this, but I thought she was very impressive for someone who, you know, used to do modeling and stuff. You don't come across like that person used to be a model, because not that she's not, you know, pleasant on the eyes, but you know, she's willing to get down and dirty and gritty, and comes across as really like an every girl, yet at the same time has something special, which is a hard balance, but is critical in a Kate Bishop.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And they mentioned during the press junket, she was asked, like, you know, what was your first? Actually, I think the director was asked what was Haley's first audition like, and Kevin Feige jumped in and was just like, yes, she didn't audition. This was hers. Like she was our number one option. We immediately went to her and we're like, this is yours if you want it. And she's one of those actors that is a total nerd and is all about this role, and that's what I love to see. Like she's you know, completely bought into this character. And she's crushing it so far. So after watching the first episode, obviously, I mean, I loved it. I have no complaints really. However, I think they made 100% the right decision to release 2 episodes. After the end of that first one, I think you would have had a really lukewarm reception after this first week from people who aren't 100% hanging on every next word from Marvel, like I am. So
yeah, I feel like we didn't get a lot of Hawkeye in the first episode, so because there was so much to set up anyway. I completely loved both of them, but yeah, I think you're right. Doing both at the same time was a smart move.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the one thing that I felt it started slow, and not in a bad way, but it started slow. Kind of like how WandaVision started slow, and you really, you know, as a whole thing, it makes sense, but it doesn't necessarily catch you like a pilot normally would have to on like a network show where you have to come back next week. Sure. So I think totally don't watch 1 and judge it. You got to watch 2.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good in that second. Not that the first episode's bad, but in a show about family, you have to establish the family, and that takes a lot of, you know, time. And so,
yeah, and you definitely would not be able to do this in a movie. Like people would be so beyond it. Like, let's move on. So I do like that you get to sit with the characters a little bit, and yeah, like you're saying, it's slow, but you're building up to something.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly, I came out of these 2 episodes. You know, I'm thrilled that they decided to do a series as opposed to a movie, because I think this needs much more time. I came out of these 2 episodes though wishing this would be more than 6 episodes overall. Like I want more.
Well, and that was like really I spent a lot of time trying to find out if this was going to be a mini series or like season 1, because I want so much. And obviously, this show is kind of obviously it leads into Echo. That's not a spoiler, but like, you know, while I want to see more of Haley as Hawkeye, whatever, you know, her Hawkeye, I also want to see more Clint Barton. And I don't want, you know, if this is a true passing of the torch, I'll be disappointed. Like I don't want him to be gone, because as someone who is like, as the one person that has children in the MCU, that adds a whole other like dynamic that, you know, the every man who has a family that very few characters are able to do. Even, you know, I get it, Tony Stark has a daughter, but he's still Tony Stark, and that's not, you know, that kid is not having a normal like life,
right?
You know, and not that Hawkeyes are, because he's still Hawkeye, but it's a total different level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we also have
it totally reminds me of like when you go to like dinner with like someone like Richard Sherman or somebody, and like people can like like it's not like he's like it's a security risk like a Tony Stark would be, where like
Right.
you know like everyone's just hounding him, but a lot of people go like, oh, are you, and you know like enough to be annoying, and without the resources to like you know book out a whole restaurant because you want to have dinner, is very familiar. Not for me because I'm not famous, but you know, sometimes in this business you have dinner with famous people or somewhat Disney famous people.
You are 1/3 of the Marvel Time team. Of course, you are famous. But yeah, speaking of Clint Barton's children, can we talk real quick about the very bizarre moment at the Chinese food restaurant where Clint calls Nate like a crazy person. He's like, "You look like a lunatic," and you look over and he's just like, he's doing these like shifty eyes back and forth. You kind of linger on him for a good like 15 seconds, and you're just like, "What happened here?"
I thought he was trying to mimic the cat, like that, the cat with the arm. That was the thing that I thought of, because you went from that to Nate moving his eyes back and forth. That was my connection. Like he's just, you know, look, I can be this thing in the restaurant.
Yeah, it kind of felt to me like it was one of those things where like they just left the camera rolling and Jeremy Renner just started improvising and they started playing around and it made the show.
Yeah.
But then also I wanted to point out too that Clint goes into the restroom and sees that somebody wrote Thanos was right, which I thought was really funny because that became like sort of an internet thing and they made its way into the MCU again. So pretty funny there.
It's fun how they can react to that stuff.
I want to talk about Rogers the musical too, and probably not the way that you're anticipating it, because my first thought watching the actual musical that we get to see way more of than I expected, I was just thinking, this is kind of crazy in this universe that this musical exists. Didn't like thousands of people die during this attack and they made a musical about it? That seems really, really weird.
I would say though, like there's 9/11 musicals.
Okay.
Well, what, Come From Away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're not focusing on the people dying.
Sure.
You're focusing on the, you know, I mean, there's World War II musicals.
Well, we're a little bit more separated there, at least.
But yeah, as far as like the story goes, you're like, yeah, we're embracing the heroes, but in order for them to be heroes, there had to be a lot of chaos.
Well, I was also say like after the Thanos snap,
that's true.
I was excited to see that Adam Pascal was one of the guys in there, and he's from Rent, so the original Broadway Rent and the movie. But yeah, I was excited about that. And this show reminded me a little bit of like they did a superhero show at Disneyland Paris or at Walt Disney Studios Park. And Ben, have you seen it?
Yes.
So kind of the same thing where you have everybody on stage doing acrobats. They're not singing, but you know, you've got the whole team up there. So it reminded me of that.
What's funny to me is, first of all, it takes place at the One Fontaine, which is where Beauty and the Beast moved after it was at the Palace. And there's an interesting article on Marvel.com with interviewing Mark Shaman, one of the composers and co-lyricists of the song. And he was not a Marvel fan, but his husband is. And so they took this opportunity for him to share his love of Marvel. So, you know, they took the pandemic and binged the MCU on Disney Plus. And he's like, I never thought I'd have to figure out how to rhyme the word Tesseract.
Right.
And if you don't know, Mark Shaman and what's his co-writer's name is escaping me, but did the songs for Mary Poppins Returns. Mm-hmm. And so it was funny because at the last Destination D, they were there talking about Mary Poppins Returns, and then this year they showed Hawkeye, and I was like, it's like Mark Shaman's like Destination D's John Ratzenberger.
There you go. That's cool.
One other thing I wanted to talk about that feels like so much like it's just pulled right from the comics, which a lot of this show does. The Tracksuit Mafia, they are perfect. They're hilarious. I want them to say "bro" like 2 or 3 more times up about it. Aside from that, they're perfect. Also, I thought it was kind of funny. They did change their name from the comics. In the comics, they're known as the Tracksuit Draculas, which is even more ridiculous. And we might still work our way there. That might be a thing that happens eventually. But yeah, they're the perfect sort of just dumb, funny henchmen in this show, and I love it.
I love how Hawkeye was like, I want to talk to your, or Clint was like, I want to talk to your manager. He's like, you're like the shift lead or whatever. He's like, I want to talk to your boss. It's like talking to furniture.
So can we talk about Echo?
Yes, definitely.
So I know Echo was rumored, but it wasn't like, maybe it was in something, but like I wasn't expecting to see her. But to me, if you're following the comics, it's so funny to have like, oh, this is a ground level hero, and then have someone who becomes the Phoenix in the comics be your spinoff. But I didn't pick up, on the first viewing, I didn't really pick up on the sort of the hearing impairedness sort of theme of it, and then how that ties into Echo. But I was like, after I saw Echo, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why he has a hearing aid. It's probably make this all make sense at some point. But
right, yeah, I do like that they're making that connection there. And you see, when you first see Echo, she's in this room with all these speakers around her, and it's like blasting music, and she feels the speaker, so she can feel the music. And so I like that the way that they introduced her. I am very curious about why she is more or less, at least possibly, playing the villain role here, and where we're going to go with that, because obviously we know she's getting her own series, and she is a fairly major hero in the comics these days, like you mentioned. So I'm curious to see where they're going with this character for sure.
Does it also make you feel like, sometimes you feel like, oh, a character is missing. Like it seems like Wilson Fisk needs to pop up in something soon.
Yeah.
Do you know something that we don't?
No, I'm just saying, like, you can't have Echo and not have Kingpin.
Right. They do even mention, like, Ronan made all these dangerous enemies, the Tracksuit Mafia. That's just one of them. You have this whole organized crime thing. There's also, there's a whole like murder mystery story going on with Jack Duquesne, who is. Can we drop the charade here? By the way, this is 100% Jacques Duquesne, the swordsman, the Avenger in comics. They're going a different direction with him, but that's who this character is. It's like the worst kept secret. But
it was like, there's something about swords and bad secrets. Like, we all knew that the Black Knight was the guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. We know Yelena is going to show up at some point too. There's so much more that's going to happen. That's what I'm saying is, like, I wish there was more than only 4 more episodes to tell this story, but I'm excited for the craziness we're going to get over those 4 episodes.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Before we move off,
it's interesting too that they switched who dies for Hawkeye, from the mom to the dad.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. Okay. So that was throwing me off with the comic that we read today too, because I believe her dad dies at some point too in the comics. But I know her mom is believed to be dead, comes back eventually. I don't know if you got a chance to see my 10 things I want to see in Hawkeye, but one of them, I have a bold prediction that Eleanor Bishop is going to be the MCU's Madame Mask. She has connections to the character in the comics, but I think to simplify things, they might just make her that character. And she is hiding some stuff that we've seen in this first couple episodes. So definitely something there.
Interesting.
I want to acknowledge Donna's question before we move off of Hawkeye regarding Haley Steinfeld. I don't know that she was a child actor. The first I saw her in was Pitch Perfect 2, I believe.
The first thing I saw her in was in Ender's Game. So that was about 8 years ago.
It's that long ago. Wow.
Yeah.
So she would have been 16. So.
And then isn't she the voice of Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, so another actor.
Her and Catherine Hahn pulling double duty here.
Yeah. So let's jump into our Marvel news for the week. Do you guys have anything else on Hawkeye before we move off of it?
It was great.
No,
I'm
only-
just
only 7 more
loved
days.
it. Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of only 7 more days. All right, so let's jump into our news here, and we'll start off with the fact that we learned from director Peyton Reed that principal photography on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is complete. So, most of this movie is done, ready to go. Obviously, we're still a ways off from seeing it, but just exciting that we got that big step done.
You have a favorite Peyton Reed movie?
I could go with Bill Murray's answer and go with Bring It On.
Yeah, let's do that. That's got Kirsten Dunst, so kind of.
I'm gonna go with a little known classic. Honey Shrunk the Audience.
Oh, that's him.
Nice, well done.
Oh my gosh.
He's
have
got
like
a type. He's like Scorsese. Scorsese has to do mob movies. Peyton does freaking things.
I saw that show one time, and as soon as the mice ran over our feet, I was like curled up in fetal position. I was closing my eyes and plugging my ears, had the glasses off. Absolute worst 3D experience.
I love
10, but still.
I love the idea that Peyton Reed is so specific in his genre that he's just turning down scripts and yelling, "I only do movies where the lead character shrinks."
In fairness, he also did the TV adaptation of The Computer Who Wore Tennis Shoes. Nobody shrinks, but someone gets whatever computerized.
Okay.
I didn't even know there was an adaptation of that. Moving on, we have Delroy Lindo was cast in Marvel's Blade. I don't know a ton about this actor, but this is one of those things where it's just like, I'm excited that we're getting progress on this movie. We think we're pretty confident we heard Blade at the end of Eternals, so we're moving in that direction. So, I don't. Are either of you super familiar with Delroy Lindo?
No, he was in A Life Less Ordinary with Ewan McGregor and Cameron Diaz, and he plays this angel. He and Holly Hunter are these angels that need to get the two of them together. It's so completely bizarre, but I absolutely loved it, and he's a great character in that.
Sounds like a bad Hallmark movie.
No, it's better than a bad Hallmark movie.
Okay, it sounds like a good Hallmark movie.
But yeah, other than that, no, I don't think so.
So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Blade. I mean, we're still a ways off from that. We have a lot to go until we get there, but I honestly, it's down on my list. But that end of Eternals, I'm just like, why was he there? I need to know what's going on with Blade right now.
But I have a question. So is this like, I don't even know that I rank them anymore because it's like one big thing.
Yeah. That was a total figure of speech that it's down on my list. I don't have a list. It's like more of like a word cloud sort of thing.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Moving off of the MCU kind of and into the parks, we're gonna get Hawkeyes in Avengers Campus, both Clint Barton and Kate Bishop. And Ben, when's the last time you went to Avengers Campus?
A week ago.
Even with that, do you feel like you need to get back there now?
Yes. Well, especially since it's a show. It's not just like them there.
Well, right. They're going to be part of the what is the show? The Avengers. It's Avengers Assemble, right?
I think.
Yeah, they're going to be.
Is that Rogers the musical?
Can I just go back to Rogers the musical? I'm just saying the Hyperion's empty.
That's what I'm saying. It's only a matter of time until that shows up in a park for sure. I mean, and by the way, that whole song was released today, so you can check out the whole what is this Save the City or something like that.
It's funny because like Marvel's gonna win all the like original song for TV awards like 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and once they get a taste of it, they're gonna be like, we got to write a song every year. We're getting this award.
There's actually some great Marvel songs. Like I mean, Make Way for Tomorrow Today. I mean, it's a
Richard Sherman.
Yeah, it's Richard Sherman. You've got Star Spangled Man from Alan Menken.
Yeah.
The Lopi on WandaVision. I mean,
Double pie. Yep. But yeah, I haven't been to Avengers Campus since June, and seeing this, I'm like, this is I need to get back now. The Eternals, Shang-Chi, now these two here too. And it's crazy because like, it's the land itself is the same. They're not changing anything big. It's just keeping up with what's going on is so effective in making me feel like I'm missing out by not being there.
Well, every time I go by it, I walk through it just to see who's there, just to see what's going on, just to see what's there.
Absolutely. And then I'm sure if there was one of the shows going on, like even if it's the same thing you've seen, you got to stop and watch it.
See, that's how I feel like with Ant-Man on TV. Like anytime that's on, I'm just like, okay, you got to watch.
I mean, I'm still in awe of what they've done with Avengers Campus. I think they absolutely crushed it there. Speaking of in awe, this wax figure of Stan Lee, the official Stan Lee Instagram account shared that the wax figure made a tour of New York, more or less, just kind of popping up in different locations and letting fans take pictures. And this thing looks, I mean, it's crazy how real this thing is. And then this will be going to Madame Tussauds in New York tomorrow, actually, I believe is its first day. So, just really cool to see, Stan Lee all around New York again. Have you guys gotten a chance to take a look at these photos? And even there's a video of it as well.
I think it's just so funny. He's like cameoing around New York.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The king of cameos is still going.
I have not watched the video yet, but it's on my list.
Yeah.
I wonder where he ranks if you take box office of a person who appears in a movie.
Ooh.
There you go. That's really smart.
I mean, like,
I do know ESPN's Matthew Berry likes to joke that on a per movie basis, he is the highest grossing actor of all time because he only appeared in Avengers Endgame. So,
right. And the news reporter from all of the Marvel shows, of course, was in Hawkeye. Sorry, just thought about that as soon as he came on the screen.
Yeah.
I was like, yep, he's back for his gig.
Yeah, it's funny. I just saw that going around on Twitter recently that people were like just realizing that this news anchor is popping up in so many different Marvel projects. So
I want to like have WHIH as like a thing.
Yeah. Well, I want the Daily Bugle network. I want J. Jonah Jameson screaming my news at me, but I don't know. We'll get there. Hopefully, J.K. Simmons can work that into his schedule. He's not too busy, right?
Yeah, sponsored by M&M's.
Loot Crate has their bite-sized box, which is going to feature some Jurassic Park, some the Goonies, and then this standee of Spider-Ham, Peter Porker himself. Love the character. Not necessarily sure I need a standee of the character, but I such a unique character to add to anyone's collection for sure.
Yeah, indeed.
And then speaking of new Marvel things to add to your collection, Marvel by Design, the new book featuring just the thought process of all of the artwork of Marvel Comics, and how they go about designing their logos, just like what do you call it, like the action words like pow and bang, just how they design that. And the thought that goes into all of that. It looks so awesome. There's so much amazing artwork in this book going way back to classic Marvel Comics. So this is one of those that's like, Marvel fans are going to want to add this to their shelf for sure.
Yeah, and aren't there two versions? Isn't there like a special edition one?
There's a special edition that has all sorts of extra, artwork to hang up on your walls or frame or however you want to do it. But yeah, there's a lot added into that special edition. And it is, let me see, I think I have the price here somewhere. Bear with me for just a second. But these are available to order now. The normal version is $69 and the special edition is $225. So a big step up to that special edition. Mm-hmm. But you get all sorts of amazing Marvel artwork too. So, and let's see here. Let's finish up with some comic book news. We did already mention Lucky the Pizza Dog. This is available on Marvel Unlimited right now. If you watched Hawkeye and enjoyed Lucky in that show, take 30 seconds and go check out this comic, because that's all the time it will take you. You'll breeze right through it. And I mentioned too in my review, Hawkeye 2012 is the Matt Fraction run. Issue number 11 is a comic told from Lucky's point of view as well, and that's also on Marvel Unlimited, and it is one of my favorite singular issues of all time. We got these Gwen Stacy inspired variant covers, kind of spinning out of Spider-Gwen Gwenverse, which will be coming in February. Interestingly, these are variant covers of completely different comics. So you're going to have for example, a Moon Knight comic with this Gwen Clops on the cover. And this is one of the things when this came out, me and Kyle were sort of joking back and forth about some of the names that they came up with for some of these characters. So we have Gwen Clops. Let's see, who else do we have here? Gwen Gray, pretty straightforward. I love the artwork on these covers, by the way. Phoenix Gwen, again. Gwen Steek.
Nice.
We have Gwen of Frost, which is probably my favorite. Rogue Gwen, which, again, straightforward. And then Gwemino. That one tripped me up a little bit. Captain Gwendolyn. Again, the art on these variant covers is so awesome. We have Gwenbit, which I saw the name first and was like, what character is that? What is Gwenbit? But love the design of the Gambit costume with the Gwen colors. That looks awesome. Of course, we have Gwenverine. And finally, Polaris, the mistress of Gwenitism.
And now we're going to have a whole bunch of new cosplays based on these variants.
I hope so. I think a lot of people could make some really, really cool costumes out of this. I want to see Gwenbit. That is a really awesome one.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, also in February, we have the next Marvel Voices. This is Marvel Voices Legacy #1. This will be coming out to celebrate Black History Month, featuring most of your favorite Black characters in Marvel Comics. So just another great outlet there for Marvel Comics. So looking forward to that as well.
That looks awesome. That's another great cover.
Yeah, the art in here is amazing for sure. So there we go. There's another week of Marvel news and content down. And then now we just, like Ben said earlier, we just begin counting down until we get to do this again, because I want more Hawkeye now.
Well, I think we'll have Marvel must-haves later this week, and then we'll be talking about them on here too. So I'm sure there's much more of that coming for you, but I know waiting for this show is the hard part.
Yeah, well, we're at a point now where we're too close to Christmas, and I'm not allowed to buy myself anything anymore. So I have to avoid the Marvel must-haves. Want to point out a comment from I Am Doom. I agree. The Gwen Clops cover is probably my favorite. That's why it's the feature image on that post there that you can see on laughingplace.com. So yeah, that's it. We're going to be looking forward to another episode of Hawkeye next week and some new comics, of course. We'll have another episode of Zacks of Life breaking down these first 2 episodes of Hawkeye in more detail. So keep an eye out for that next Monday. You can check out our last episode where we talked about Eternals. And Edith joined us for a fun draft of the best Marvel teams. So check that out right now. Do you guys have anything else before we wrap things up today?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, good point. That is tomorrow, isn't it? Kind of snuck up on me.
Yes.
Yeah, so happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And we will be back next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.